If there's one constant for Sun Devils football, it's that they're going to have a good run game, but our question is whether or not it can be historic.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcasts, and stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrats36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back like we never left. Before we get into the episode, I do want to apologize for the radio silence. There's something going around right now, and whatever that cold sickness is absolutely knocked me on my you-know-what. So to make up for it, we're here today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and then we will be resuming our regularly scheduled content. Of course, like we talked about earlier in the week, we are starting our series taking a look at each position and breaking down what we know, the overview. I'm going to predict the depth chart, and then upside downside. Today we're looking at the running backs, and this is a fun room, man. This is a deep room at running back. I can't remember the last time Arizona State had so many running backs that if you put them as your starter, you'd feel good, let alone great with some of the guys here. And that's where we'll start is the returning guys. The big three returners right now are Cameron Skattebo, DeCarlos Brooks, and Kyson Brown. Those three last year were your most consistent running backs. They were the guys who got the most carries. Skattebo obviously was the bell cow for the team. He was as good as it gets, almost 5 yards per carry. He scored 9 times on the ground. He was great. DeCarlos Brooks only played 4 games because of injury, but when he was on the field, he was also great. Him and Skattebo actually lined up together. They would put DeCarlos Brooks as more of like your H-back, and Skattebo would line up behind him, and they would just run power sets. And it's like, we can hand it off to DeCarlos as a fullback, or we can give the Skattebo as the tailback for the team. And it's like, pick your poison. Opposing defenses, what are you going to do? They had a wildly successful dynamic duo with them, but again, Brooks only played 4 games. Kyson Brown ends up appearing in quite a few games. I don't think there was any expectation for Kyson Brown to end up contributing the way that he did, but lo and behold, he got onto the field. 23 carries, 106 yards, very healthy 4.6 yards per carry. As your third running back, and for someone that, again, I don't really know what your expectations for him were, that's pretty darn good. And now you're going into this offseason with him as just one more of the names that Arizona State has in their backfield. And I've said before, and I'll say again, I really like Kyson Brown. And I love the idea of him being filtered into this offense. It's just unfortunate how crowded the room has become that I don't know what the outlook is for him or for freshman Jason Brown, who we'll talk about more, or the transfers who are coming in. It is a very crowded room. It is a positional group that has no shortage, not just of players, but of talent, of big names and potential superstars for this team. I'm beyond excited for what we have potentially here. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the transfers now, because the transfers are another aspect that's so interesting for me. Is you have Raleek Brown, and Raleek is a former 5-star recruit / really high 4-star, depending on your source. He is a spark plug. He's one of those guys, you just give him the football and you let him do something magical with it. He's a good receiver. He's a really good runner. He looked the part during spring ball. I thought there was times where he looked like the best running back on the field. Certainly, at worst, your number 2, maybe your number 3 running back right now. They have a very good problem to have with their running back room. And adding Raleek Brown into that mix, it's so interesting. And I think that it's interesting from a couple of different perspectives. The one that really stands out is, like I mentioned, with him being electric and him being a spark plug. I mean, even outside the running back room, the receivers room, whatever, I don't know that there is a bigger home run threat on this team than Raleek Brown. This is the kind of guy that you feel can take a 3-yard gain and turn it into 40, or a 5-yard pass and turn it into 50. A guy who can rattle off a 60-yard touchdown. Maybe he finds himself on special teams. I mean, it's a wide open opportunity with Elijah Badger gone. He's so beyond talented, and the pure God-given talent and athleticism that he has that you just can't teach is what separates him from some of the other guys on this team right now. You're going to want to get him the ball in any way that you can. But ASU wasn't done through the transfer portal because they decided to add Alton McCaskill. And McCaskill is a name that we haven't heard in a couple of years. 2022, he missed the season. I believe it was an ACL tear. That was with Houston. 2023, he transfers to Colorado. Appeared in, how many games was it? I can pull it up. 4 games. Only had 14 carries. On the surface, you're like, okay, well, that's not really a big deal. But you go back to his freshman year. When he was a freshman, he was the all-conference rookie of the year. Big at the time, it was AAC for Houston. 189 carries, 961 yards, 16 touchdowns, and another 2 receiving touchdowns. 18 touchdowns. This kid had 210 total touches over 1,000 yards. Well over 5 yards per carry, well over 5 yards per reception. Big play. Not a small kid, 6'1", 200. You're going to be working him in, I would say. He's a very exciting kid, but you also have to understand that he is 2 years removed from him being an up-and-coming superstar. Of course, he can get back to that, but there also needs to be some grace given to him. This is his third school in as many years, and he has not had a big workload in that time frame. He's a very exciting player, and he's someone that I would be intrigued if by the end of the season, if we're talking more about him. At worst, he feels like he could be a facet for the future of the running back position, because you got to think Skattebo's gone after this year. DeCarlos will be out of eligibility. Raleek Brown, if he has a big year, could jump to the next level. That would leave Kyson Brown, Alton McCaskill, and Jason Brown, plus whoever else they bring in through the transfer portal or the recruiting class. This is a good opportunity for McCaskill to establish himself for the future. I just don't know what his role looks like in year one. Last guy here to talk about, Jason Brown, the 4-star freshman, the highest rated recruit in this upcoming cycle. He's someone that I just don't know what his role looks like. He's a talented kid, but with how deep this running back room is, I mean, we're talking about 6 guys right now. 6 running backs who are all talented enough to make you feel confident if you're an ASU fan, no matter who was RB1 or RB2 or RB3. Put them in any order, you'd be like, yep, okay, works for me. We should be fine. Jason Brown, I don't like saying this, but he definitely feels like a red shirt. I just don't know how he gets out there. Pending injury, pending bad play, or whatever it is, because there's always an opportunity for him to get out there. But as we look at this in mid-May, it's going to be really tough for him to get onto the football field. It's not impossible. I mean, this kid could come out and just be a superstar. He truly could be. And I'm really excited about his future with the team. But in the same way that I talked about McCaskill, I think we have to talk about Jason Brown as like, this will be a year to kind of get his feet underneath him, get established in the system, and then hopefully be able to become a bigger role or inherit a bigger role in the offense, become a bigger facet in the offense for 2025 and beyond. Definitely a key piece of the future. He also will be linked to Kenny Dillingham as one of the higher recruits that he had in his first 2 cycles and will be one of the highest he has in his first 3 cycles, unless they go absolutely bananas with the 2025 recruiting class, which I wouldn't put it past them. But Jason Brown is going to be tied to Kenny Dillingham when we look at him 5 years, 10 years down the road as one of the first big name, big time skill position players that he brought in. How he ends up panning out will be very important. That's the reason why I think they're going to take their time with him and make sure that he is ready to go for the collegiate level. It may not be a red shirt. He may get on the field for 6-7 games. I just don't know if he's going to be a top 3 or top 4 rusher on the team. And that's not a bad thing at all. If anything, it's a very good thing for ASU. And it's a good thing for Jason, too, to get those reps underneath him. But we're going to talk about the projected depth chart in just a moment. I did my best, thought about it, put it together. We'll get to it right now. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier than before. Prices on the Game Time app will actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. You can save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, comedy, theater events, or anything else near you. And you can save with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Or you can check out the zone deals, where you can save even more by picking a section and letting Game Time choose the seats. Their all-in pricing toggle feature is going to show the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout, and you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know what to expect before you get there. But best of all is their lowest price guarantee, where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less money, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's get back into it. I appreciate you guys for tuning in as always and making us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Back into our conversation, we are going to take a look at the potential depth chart for ASU. This was not easy. It was, and even as I'm looking at it right now, I kind of want to change it. I have 6 guys here that I have to come up with some kind of order. And again, to feed a fed horse, you can put these guys in any order. I'd be happy with it. I'd be like, yep, that looks good. Cool. Alton McCaskill is my number 1 running back. Sounds good. He had a lot of talent. Oh, Jason Brown's my number 1 running back. Well, he was a 4-star. I'm really looking forward to him. Raleek Brown, former 5-star. Let's do it. Cameron Skattebo, that was the guy last year. Superstar. DeCarlos Brooks, well, he looked good when he was on the field. He's a Valley kid. Kyson Brown, loved him last year. What's he do this year? Let's order them, though. Running back 1, I don't think this is a surprise. Cameron Skattebo. Could he be usurped? Absolutely. I don't know that anybody's job is safe on this team right now. And that goes for Cameron Skattebo. He is pound for pound one of the most talented players on this roster. He was an immediate impact when he got to ASU last year. Immediately seized the starting role for the team and was probably the best player on offense, might even have been the best player for ASU, period. You can't just expect him to be overtaken. But there's always the chance. Nonetheless, for my depth chart, until further notice, Cameron Skattebo, running back 1. Running back 2, I might surprise you with this, but I am sticking with DeCarlos Brooks. And there's a few things that go into this for me, a few things that factor into it. The biggest is that Brooks has been here. Brooks knows the system. He looked good last year. That's the other thing. Like, it's not like DeCarlos Brooks didn't play last year and he looked bad. No. He looked really good when he was on the field. He looked like somebody that you would have been comfortable giving the ball to as a starting running back. He's a big bully. He brings the thunder to Cameron Skattebo's thunder. I mean, they're just delivering body blow after body blow. I still think he's running back 2. I also think he gets an edge over the rest of the guys because of that build. And maybe I'm a little biased because I do love bully ball. I love big running backs that just run you over. It's just my favorite thing. And I think that you saw that same value last year from ASU's running game, is they like to be able to run the ball in heavy sets and 2 tight end formations. They like being able to run the ball down your throat and just, again, those body blows. I think that goes a long ways for Brooks to maintain RB3. Now, or RB2. If he is not RB2, then it's Raleek Brown, who I have as my RB3. And again, with Raleek Brown, it's this lightning in a bottle, and he can do anything at any given moment. He flashed that potential at USC, but just couldn't get on the field because of the talent they had. So you come to Arizona State. He says when he arrives at Arizona State, look, I want to be the guy. I want to be the guy that you look back on when ASU turned it around. They go, Raleek Brown. He was the face. He wants to be the face of the program. There's not much stopping him from doing that. He is equally talented to Cameron Skattebo. And the two of them on the field at the same time is so exciting. So exciting. And they both do a lot of things very well for you. Outside runners, I want to see what Raleek Brown can do between the tackles. He's a really good pass catcher. So is Skattebo. Here's what I'll say. Skattebo, Brooks, Raleek Brown. They are my top 3 runners. I expect them all to get on the field pretty consistently on a week-to-week basis. They all do different things for you. They push different buttons. Get them all involved. The 3 after them, I want them involved. I just don't know that they're going to nearly have the kind of role that Skattebo, Brooks, and Raleek Brown are going to have. Running back 4, this is a toss-up for me. I'm going between RB4 and RB5 right now. And I am going to give the RB4 advantage for the moment. And I'm actually changing this on my list to Kyson Brown. Initially, I had Kyson as running back 5. I don't think I can do that because Kyson knows the system and he got pretty decent playing time last year. McCaskill did not get on the field nearly as much at Colorado. Part of that, I wonder if he was just getting back and comfortable from the injury he sustained in 2022. But that ends up being the final decision here for me, the final factor for why I am going with Kyson over McCaskill. And based off of what you've seen from McCaskill, his upside is as good as anyone on this team. but we have to see if he can get back to that point. That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. Can he get there? Until then, I know what Kyson Brown is. I know how good Kyson Brown is. I'm going to get him on the field. RB6, not a surprise. I said Jason Brown could possibly be looking at a red shirt. That's the situation that he's in for me as RB6. But again, this is not an insult to Jason Brown. This is how talented this running back room is. Jason Brown could easily be a starter for the Sun Devils, and he'd feel good about it. But he just so happens to be going to a room that is just so loaded, man. He's going to have to find some kind of niche to be able to get on the field consistently, at least early on. Maybe by the end of the season, when we start to know a little bit more about this room and what they can and can't do, maybe Jason gets on the field a little more then. As of now, subject to change, he's RB6 for me. It is not, and I cannot emphasize this enough in case somebody is a big Jason Brown fan and coming at me in the comments. I cannot emphasize this enough. I am not doubting his talent. I think that this kid's a stud. He is just in a stacked room. Hopefully I emphasize that enough so that I don't get any hate in the comments. But if I do, so be it. We're going to round out this podcast right now, though, with the upside that this running back room has. And I do think that they have about as high an upside as any position group on this team. And the downside, which may surprise you as to my reasoning for it. We'll get into it in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Game off. We got to take a pause and talk about Monopoly Go. And I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's just so much good stuff in this game, and I can't stop talking about it. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get, including unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends with when you smash their buildings and heist their vaults, and so much more. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, a ton that include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or robot Penchico machine. And there's always new timed events that'll help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover on Monopoly Go, so get off the bench. Go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. One more time, wherever you get your podcasts, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Rounding it out with the upside and downside of this unit. Upside, I mean, you just have an elite rushing attack. I said at the top of the episode, maybe this could be historic. I could not find what the most rushing yards in a single season is for Arizona State. Easily over 2,000 for sure. I couldn't find it. But first of all, if someone can, drop a comment and let me know. This attack is good enough to break whatever that record is. 100% believe in my heart of hearts, whatever the record is, not only can they beat it, they could crush it. You have 6 starting running backs on this team. And Kenny Dillingham emphasized that he wants to run a pro-style attack. He showed last year that's the way he wants to do it. There's lots of 2 tight end sets. There's lots of offensive linemen to bring out for heavy sets for 6 linemen on the field. You can do a lot to make this running game better. And it'll get better. Plus, unlike last year, there's a lot of speed that got added. Like, Skattebo is still really quick. But Raleek Brown is fast, like track speed fast. ASU didn't have that at the running back position last year. They just added it. You got tons of power. You got guys that'll just run you over. Runaway trucks and freight trains. Now you've got somebody that is just cut on a dime. He makes one move and boom, see you later, 80 yards into the end zone. Adding that to your already great rushing attack makes it special. And it has me believing that you could end up having a historically great rushing attack for the history of Arizona State Sun Devils football. Maybe it's the best. And maybe it ends up being one of the best in the Big 12 Conference, which leads me to my next upside is you have at least one all-conference player. I say one player because it could be Skattebo or it could be Raleek or it could be anyone else. This is a wide open room. Maybe McCaskill gets back to 100% health, 100% confidence, and just kills it. Maybe Jason Brown is a freshman of the year. Maybe Kyson Brown breaks out as a sophomore. Maybe DeCarlos Brooks stays healthy and scores 20 touchdowns. There's all sorts of different ways that this could shake out. But no matter how it does, if everything hits right, someone is going to be an all-conference player. First team, second team, third team, whatever. You are getting an all-conference player out of this running game if everything hits in stride. There should be at least 1,000-yard rusher. Depending on what ASU wants to do, maybe you have 2,000-yard rushers. Maybe you've got three guys that all hit 700 yards. Maybe you've got three guys that combine for 20, 25 touchdowns. I don't know. There's a lot that these guys can do together. But there's no doubt for me that if everything hits, someone is going to be looked at and go, yeah, he was one of the best in the conference. Last bit of the upside actually isn't really with the run game, but I think that they open up the passing game. Sean Aguano has told me several times he wants the running backs to be able to be comfortable catching the football out of the backfield, running routes, whatever, not just as a one-dimensional runner. You've got guys who can catch the heck out of the football with Skattebo and Raleek. We'll see what the rest of the guys can bring up. If these guys end up delivering in the passing game, first of all, it can look two different ways. One, it can look like Raleek Brown gets 30 catches this year and Skattebo gets 20. Or it can look like, yeah, they didn't get a lot of catches, but look how easy it was for Sam Levitt to scan the field because everybody was playing on the run game. It's a win-win here. And it really is just going to open up your offense. And when you consider the uncertainty you have at quarterback, having these guys be able to open that up means everything. Downside, I think there's really just one big downside here. And like I said, it might catch you a little off guard, but the phrase too many chefs in the kitchen could come into play. You have 6 starting running backs. I don't know if I've said that yet on this podcast, but you might have 6 running backs that can't work together. You might have 6 running backs that cannot put together a consistent effort. There's no consistency from the backfield. Skattebo gets 3 carries for 13 yards, and then Raleek Brown gets 8 carries for 19 yards. And like you're trying to force stuff and it doesn't work. Maybe it also takes a hit because the passing game is not going to be what we are expecting to be a strength of the team. It might hinder the running game. And if it does, what do you do if you can't find consistency? What if Cameron Skattebo takes a step back? What if Raleek Brown is all potential and he just doesn't reach that point? What if DeCarlos Brooks continues to, well, not continues to, but what if he's not able to be anything more than a change of pace running back? What if Alton McCaskill isn't what he was as a freshman? What if Jason Brown and Kyson Brown can't get on the field? There's a lot of what ifs. And there's a lot of, hey, this may not work out the way that we want it to work out, the way that we think it could work out, the way we believe it should work out. there's plenty that can go wrong. But to me, everything goes wrong if they just don't play off each other, they don't find consistency with each other, and they aren't able to work around one another. Skattebo and Brooks can come out and just break your back, and then you're so tired that Raleek Brown takes it. But at the same time, if they aren't getting it going, if they can't ground and pound, well, why am I going to respect that as a defense when I should just be playing outside to contain Raleek Brown? They need to be able to play off of each other. They play off each other. They generate success for each other. We have a great run game. If they don't, we're going to be in for a long year. I definitely lean towards the former. And I definitely am a believer that this could be a very special unit. This could be one of the best units that Sun Devils football has ever seen from their running game. I want to know what you guys think, though. Are you excited about this run game? Who's your running back 1? Who's your running back 2? Your 3? What's your depth chart? Who are you excited the most about? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Richie Brads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back again tomorrow. We'll be taking a look at the wide receivers. Again, I want to thank you guys for the understanding. I absolutely got knocked on my you-know-what being sick. I still kind of sound a little sick as I'm recording this, but we'll be back again tomorrow. We'll be back on track moving forward. I'll see you then, and until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun.